'Tis the season for the worst 120 minutes all of soccer podcasting. Well, pretty much every week is time for the worst 120 minutes of soccer podcasting. That's right, y'all. It is time once again for the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. I'm Mike, and after a week's hiatus to deal with this back, which just doesn't seem to want to get any better, put me on the 60-day DL, back injury, return unknown. Yep, I'm back, happy to celebrate the holiday season with my good friends. Stead, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing fantastic. We're winding down the school year, we're winding down the calendar year. It's a good time to be alive. And I am just, your camera positioning for your house is perfect. Wonderful to see the tree in the background. So I just hope everybody is going to enjoy some good dessert R&R and enjoy the holiday season.
Yeah, I just heard from our good friend on the chat, Rob the Red, who said that he might, COVID willing, be joining us over in the States for a couple of days in December. He's going to be in town to catch a couple of matches that I'll let you know. It'll be good. I haven't seen him in probably close to 3 years now. But it'll be good to watch a couple of matches with him. You know, the festive season is always one of my favorite times because unlike the rest of the leagues that are wimpy and take the winter off, and the Premier League leans into it and says, no, we're not going to take time off. We're going to play more games.
Gotta love it.
Gee, looking very, very festive down in New Orleans.
Yes, sir. Hey, last week you got a shout out, or DDP got a shout out for DDP's back yoga strengthening. Did you try that out at all this week? How'd it go? We want to maybe an update on this. Inquiring minds want to know.
No, I've been doing the physical therapy. It was my lower back, but right now it seems like I have a problem with my upper back. So, like, if you draw a line down my spine, the only part of my back that does not hurt is my left side. But my right, and I'm right-handed, which has made driving and doing other activities a lot of fun. Nonetheless, I braved the pain and traveled down to Fort Worth this week. And for my good friend Dave's wedding. It was a really great time. Got to hang out with him and his brother-in-law and his friends and his family. I especially would like to send a shout out to Steve and Ken, who collectively go by the nickname the Drunkles.
Nice. There's got to be a story for that one.
Yeah, there's a huge story. I'm not 100% sure what it is, but if you can imagine two characters who are there to add comedic value to any like a Ben Stiller or somebody who kind of plays the straight man, but they're there just to add drug comedic value, that would be the Drunkles.
Love it. My kind of people.
Absolute and total all-stars.
Love it.
I mean, you can't make them. And not only that, that's how they refer to themselves. On Sunday, we asked them, we said we were going to go out and link up with Dave afterwards, after the wedding for a little bit and take him out and party for a little bit before we sent him on back to back home. And we said, are we going to go out? And they were like, yes, we're the Drunkles. We have a reputation to uphold. No one besmirches the reputation of the Drunkles.
Gotta love Texans, man. That's
not
unique characters.
That can't be. There's a little more Texas.
They're not Texans. That's the funny thing. They're not from Texas. Dave is not from Texas. Dave is from Pennsylvania by way of West Virginia. He moved down to Texas.
West Virginia. I mean, I got you.
Yeah, but these two guys live in Charlotte, North Carolina.
But still from West Virginia.
Texas, that area.
Not Delran, but West Virginia. Yeah. Pretty close.
Granted, I have a special soft spot in my heart for West Virginia. I love West Virginia.
Yet we wore our cowboy boots and our hats. So nice. I would like to say that of all the people, the Yankee, was the one who got the assignment most right. I had the cowboy boots. I had the stats. the Stetson. I even had tuxedo studs made from the end caps of Colt 45 bullets.
Dang.
In the shape of Texas?
You went whole hog out there.
I leaned
Yeehaw.
into the yeehaw. I leaned into the Texasness of this wedding. I got my Texas on for the wedding. And I will once again say it is a great place to visit. Don't want to know if I would want to live there, but it is a perfectly lovely place to visit. Fort Worth was a nice town, saw the stockyards. The barbecue was slightly disappointing.
You got to go to Austin,
which is
barbecue. You got to go to Austin.
Actually, I just want to go back down to Black's in San Antonio where I can get a rib the size of a small head.
Yeah, that's true.
Heard great things about San Antonio.
San Antonio is a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, very nice trip. We had to delay the show a little bit because I did not make it home until about 8 o'clock last night.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was no way I was going to be able to do it. But
it sounds familiar with Arsenal, with Aubameyang getting back late from a trip and just can't perform. So, you know,
that's true.
Might have to sit out a game or two.
You stole exactly where I was going to go next. Now, I'm going to throw some passive shade and say that we're going to be reviewing the draws for the European competitions, which were the big story from yesterday and early in this week. But as Arsenal aren't in it, in order to facilitate an Arsenal conversation, we have to have you all. So just a little bit of passive shade right there. But we do need.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it because it kind of helps us out with EPL and being healthy. So we'll get next year.
Yeah, I think. But today, it was announced that Mikel Arteta had sacked Emerick Aubameyang as captain after benching him for the match this weekend because he either turned up late or did not show up for training after returning late from an unauthorized trip, according to reports. This may be one of the bigger decisions of Mikel Arteta's tenure because the repercussions of this are going to be felt. One can only imagine having lost his captaincy and lost his place in the starting lineup for however long, so close to the transfer deadline, that there's let's call it better than 50-50 chance that Aubameyang is going to ask for a move in January, something that had already been put out there. Now, Aubameyang his powers have waned slightly as of recently, probably over the last season and a half. Like since he signed that contract, he hasn't not necessarily been banging them in at the rate that he was prior to it. But he's still an influential player and one that, could cause a lot of problems. And on his day, he's the best center forward that they have, right? So where does this leave it? I mean, this is a big decision. It could be a case of addition by subtraction, but this also could very easily blow up in Arteta's face. But this is why he gets paid the big bucks to be manager, right?
Yes. Let's just say this. I think it's safe to say that Aubameyang has played his last game at Arsenal. I think it's already happened. Arteta said today that he's not on the squad on Wednesday, and there needs to be significant healing that needs to occur before he can be featured in the squad again. That was a very strong statement. That's strong. When you say something to that magnitude where we need to work through a whole lot of things before you can be on the squad, is drawing a line in the sand. And sadly, Aubameyang's immaturity has reared its ugly head a little too often recently. But don't forget, this isn't an Arteta thing either. He did this under Emery as well. He would occasionally turn up late to training, and he would always, he always made it seem like he was apologetic and he was contrite, and I got to do better. I'm a leader on the team. He always said the right things. And then, of course, we had what was happening last year where there was some turmoil going on in his family. with some illnesses and stuff like that. All that being said, though, I'll just say it. I had my older sister passed away, and I had to go back to work 4 days later. You have to get on with your life, and even though there's that level of trauma that one would have to go through, there's still a level of respect you have to have for the people who you work with. And Aubameyang's just not showing it. I think it's wise for Arteta to do what he's doing, even if it's to the detriment of the team. You are the leader. You are in charge. Now, I think there is going to be an initial negative impact. Granted, it's easier for him to make this decision because of the fact that they won 3-0 last weekend and they look good. It's easier to make that decision when you're coming off that type of performance. But there is going to be a little bit of I'm trying to think about the right way to say it. Basically, put it this way: Arsenal lacks leadership, and we have lacked leadership for a while. And Aubameyang was kind of the only one, because even with Lacazette, I don't trust Lacazette's maturity either. And the fact that he's not being removed, there's a lot of
oh man,
what are we going to do now? So that's the part that's kind of scary. Gee, I'm going to knock this over to you, because I know, the chat line was fired up. Wow. And a lot of us were like, no, I like the move, but I don't like the move either. So there's a lot of contrite feelings. There's a lot of fear going on right now.
And I thought about it today, actually. And one thing that I think we're kind of overlooking is that.
G, your mic just cut out. G, hold on, G, your mic cut out.
Well, while we wait for G to get back on, Stead, you brought up the point, like you felt like it was easier to make that decision because they had won 3-0.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, go ahead, G.
All right, go ahead. Nope, lost him again.
New Orleans.
Yeah. He's only scored 7 goals in 15 games thus far this season, which isn't a bad return.
Yeah, but he scored 4 in the Premier League.
That's
the problem.
3 in the Prem. We got you again, G. He scored we scored 4 in the Premier League, right? If he was on a tear where he was returning goals at about 50%, would this be a different decision?
Well, but Jay, before I want you to make your point, let me say this. It seems like when Aubameyang goes through a slump in form is when these type of things occur. So my gut tells me that had he been on that type of form, he never would have taken that trip in the first place. But G, go ahead.
So sorry about that. I was saying one thing that sucks about all this is that we know all this information, that he's not keeping all this stuff behind closed doors. And if I am another player from another team, I might question, well, is he going to throw me under the media shade? Is he going to throw me under the media bus in my future if one thing kind of goes wrong? So this might be a detrimental to his future possible coaching career or future players. We should not be knowing all of this stuff. We should not be knowing, make up some lie, make up some whatever, and maybe the truth comes out a little bit later. But right now, maybe Aubameyang's like, you know what? I'm gonna play these cards right. I'm gonna act like a fool. I'm gonna push them or pressure them to trade me or pressure them to sell me off something. I want to get out of here. So really don't know kind of what Aubameyang is thinking right now. Again, we don't know a lot. We know a lot from Arteta. I just think he's kind of doing this kind of wrong. He's a young coach. This might kind of go against him. And people like Xhaka, and I don't know why they love Xhaka and make him captain again, but they see something in him as a leader. But I don't know, he's the oldest one there. If not, you have Kieran Tierney to be the next guy to kind of take over the captain band. So I think this might kind of backfire in Arteta's face by just publicizing all this stuff in the media. So the team looks really good against Southampton last week, scoring 3-0. But let's see how they kind of respond to West Ham tomorrow. That's going to be a real good test. Even if we have Aubameyang, it'll still be a really good test of where we are this year and kind of this rebuild. So there's a lot of question marks going on with Arsenal. Yeah, we won. We got 3 points, but we're in 7th place. We're right now. There's some locker room drama going on.
And I would find it very hard to go back to Granit Xhaka after having lost the captaincy before. I think that would be part of an issue. Kieran Tierney hasn't necessarily been a nailed-on starter this year, so it's hard to imagine him. Gabriel strikes me as being a little bit young.
Too young.
And his command of English is not the best right now.
Yeah, so, I mean, I know Lacazette seems to have, he took the armband on Saturday. He seems likely, if there isn't a announcement, to do it on.
No, Arteta did say that they're going to continue the decisions they made. They're going to continue it. And right now it looks like Lacazette's going to continue to be the captain, with Xhaka being the vice captain and Rob Holding being the third captain. The concern, though, is Lacazette's not going to be here next season. And there was even a chance I think if Aubameyang had been playing better, I would say that it would probably be feasible to think that Lacazette would be out in January. The problem is just that Arsenal is a very young team without a clear successor of who's going to take that mantle as the team leader, who's going to be the Patrick Vieira, and who's going to be the player that's going to be able to be that presence, who's going to be able to fire up his teammates as well as be calm and be able to speak with the referee and all that other thing. It looks to me like this could be something that could be grooming Ben White for. I think Arsenal is not the Arsenal club. You should never have your striker be your captain. I mean, outside of Thierry Henry, just don't do that. I just don't think that's a good idea. And I think a captain is best served to be your holding midfielder, a defender, someone who is going to see more of the field, and someone who is going to be widely respected by the players. And sadly, there are lots of players on Arsenal who could be that in the next few years. It's just not there right now. And that's the concern moving forward, is just like, who is going to be the field general? Because sadly, as the people who you see being able to take that role are not on the field consistently enough for you to want to give them that responsibility.
Well, typically you want a more defensive player to be your captain, although I've never understood why more teams don't give goalkeepers the captain's armband, because it's the one position that almost always stays on the field for 90 minutes.
I agree.
But you want to see
I don't really like that.
Yes. I think all goalkeepers should have it. You're absolutely right. We're playing 90.
I feel like the goalkeeper's always a captain anyway. They're always a captain.
I think if you have the right goalkeeper.
That's what my coaches have always said to me. They're like, the goalkeeper's always like goalkeeper's never a captain, because it's always a captain. Like, you always listen to the goalkeeper, no matter what. I mean, he could have nothing. You just have to listen to the goalkeeper. He doesn't need a band for you to listen to him.
Yeah. So then what's the point? I mean, but again, you can say, okay, they're going to be on the pitch for 90 minutes, which means that you're not going to go through three captains in a game. Mm-hmm. Number one. Number two, they play probably the most of any outfield player throughout the course of the season.
Yeah.
Number three, one of the reasons why people don't love strikers as goalkeepers is you want somebody who can watch the whole entire game in front of them. Nobody sees that better than a goalkeeper. And number four, goalkeepers tend to play and peak later, so they're going to tend to be older and be more mature. It depends on the goalkeeper, right? Like, I could easily see if, let's take United, for example, given the form that he's in, if they needed to look at a captain, why not look at give a serious look at David De Gea? If you're Bayern Munich, as great as Thomas Mueller is, why not look at Manuel Neuer? Why?
And also, goalies, for the most part, we don't get yellow cards. We don't get red cards. We're a little bit smarter like that. I've seen Larry on here. Look at Man City. Ederson, why not? He's a phenomenal. He runs that team kind of silently, but you can tell he's got control back there. He runs it. So I can see him being, a captain. I think captains 100%. We see everything. We bark out the commands. We shift people around. We are the commanders, and we do play all 90 minutes. So I think there's a good cause for all captains should be goalies. So preach.
Yeah, again, that's why I think that's just proves that you guys are goalies by default. But it has worked out. You've seen but can you see Aaron Ramsdale being goalkeeper of Arsenal right now? No, because we're still kind of talking about Arsenal right now. And I don't that's the problem. Let's say, look, I'll tell you this: had Emi Martinez remained on this team, it's a logical decision. Yeah, that would have been a logical decision, but he's not. But he's not.
Leno was still the number one. It would have been a logical decision. It would have been a logical decision. But
sadly, Leno's out too. But this is a gaping hole. But see, this gets me back to what I've been saying a long time about how Arsenal's had this kind of lack of toughness and this lack of real. I mean, look, Troy Deeney said Arsenal lacked balls, and he was exactly right. And you're seeing what that truly means with now you're in a situation where you don't really know who your captain's going to be, and there isn't even someone in the pipeline that you expect to take it over in 6 months. That's scary. But I think it's all connected. It's all connected. This has been a hole with the club for a very long time, and until that hole gets filled, it's going to continue to be a problem. I am not opposed to Arsenal spending 15 million pounds on a midfielder who you know is going to be on the field all the time, that has a little bit of sauce to him. Yeah, well, the person I was thinking of was Odegaard. I was thinking of a player like Odegaard, but Odegaard isn't seeing the field enough right now. But I would suspect that as he gets more and more into the lineup, that was going to be my swing, was to say I think Martin Odegaard should be looking at as the potential captain for the 2022-2023 season.
Because he can't command the field like Ozil did when he first came on. Was just the spreader out, or he's the assistant. He's all that type of stuff. Just throw him out there. He got 6 goals and two assists this year for Femberbach. So
but
getting back to like that.
Yeah, but getting back to the Aubameyang situation, I've changed my tune on him very rapidly in the past probably 48 hours, very rapidly. I was saying just then, I was like, you know what? No, let him sit for a while. Let him see that the team can function well without him, kind of light a fire under him. But then seeing that there really is something negative brewing between him and management. If you can move him on, move him on. Just move him on. There's
agree with Arteta,
out though.
You're a captain.
I agree.
You have responsibility.
I agree with Arteta too. I absolutely.
I think what Arteta said is the club comes over yourself. What did he say? The club comes over self personal preferences. Like you don't care about your personal life. The club comes before you. And if he signs up as the captain, that's a responsibility he has to take upon himself. And he said, nope, I don't care about that. I don't blame Arteta whatsoever.
I don't blame him either. It's a real negative. It's a real negative way to end what could have been a really promising career at Arsenal, because look, the guy scored 21 goals back-to-back seasons, fastest player ever to score 50 goals. He was truly a force that we needed when we desperately needed it. And to see it go down this way, especially when, yes, he's on the wrong side of 30, but he's only 32. And for someone with his type of physical gifts and his athletic ability and his ability to finish around the box and play, and having that, Sean pointed out how he's most effective. But even this season, when he was not able to score goals, you still saw a player who was playing very hard, who was really leaving it out on the field. Did he make some mistakes? Absolutely. But I saw a guy that I was not embarrassed to say was the team captain. And to now see that behind the scenes, it's gotten to this level. It's sad. It's really sad. And I was this close to getting Aubameyang printed on the back of my jerseys, but now I'm going to continue my quest to have no names in the back of my Arsenal jerseys ever since I gave away my Santi Cazorla jersey, a player I desperately wish we had right now.
Wow. Magician.
Let's look at it. It is kind of the curse of the big Arsenal contract and captaincy.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's a great point.
You give them the money, you give them the armband, thinking that they're going to step up, and just lately it hasn't been there.
It hasn't worked
out. When you look at pretty consistently through, once he became an established starter, Aubameyang was a 30-goal season scorer.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He had placed that last season down. He gets the contract. All of a sudden, he goes from 29 goals in a season to 15 to now 7. Like you said, Step, 3 of them came in one game in the League Cup. Other than that, 4 and 14 in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Yes.
But Mike, let me piggyback on your point too. So if you just go back to 14-15, where his total goals were 25, then 39, 40, and then 31, because the year that he came to Arsenal and scored 10 goals in 13 games, he had 21 in the Bundesliga that same season. 31, 29 again, and then he signs the contract, and then it's 15 and now 7. It is, and that's when he was made captain. There's just something not right with that role at Arsenal for some reason. And even before that, you can't ever say that Granit Xhaka had the captain cojones. And I remember when they made Cesc Fabregas captain. And there was a lot of like, oh, I don't know about that. So it seems like since then, there's been this issue with the Arsenal captain. And that's a long time.
So, well, like I said, I think it's the biggest decision that he's made to date. You know, you can talk about the formation going from a 3 to a 4 to a 3 to a 4 to a 3 to a 4. Mm-hmm. But right now you're talking about more than just a shift in formation. You're taking out your talismanic striker, the one
your best player. Yeah,
your best player, the person who carries the most discernible threat. Right. I don't care whether or not he scored 4 or 14. Mm-hmm. He's the guy that, as a defender, you're worried about when you're watching. You know, how do you defend Arsenal with Lacazette? And forgive me, Nicolas Pepe has never shown up.
No, he hasn't. I tried for G, you know me. I tried really hard.
He's never shown up.
He just hasn't, and he's also gone.
And
that's Arsenal way to throw a bunch of money for no return.
So you take
the captain did it. Why can I do it?
Your best player, your captain. You don't have a like-for-like replacement. Your most like-for-like replacement in terms of striker is Alexander Lacazette, who you bought Aubameyang in to replace because he wasn't getting the job done when you first brought him in. In fact, like 6 months later, you brought in Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang because Lacazette wasn't getting it done. We're talking about the better part of 130 million pounds of striker in those two who weren't getting the job done. You take the captaincy away. You, like you guys said, you don't have a clear-cut successor. You know, Tierney would be a great option, but he's not nailed on to start.
No.
Do you give him the captaincy?
He gets hurt tying his shoelaces.
Yeah. Do you give him hope that he can come in and get it done? Or not? And it's just, you know, where does he go? And I think this will be a real test of his ability to lead this team through. It's a big test to have for a very young manager. And let's be honest, he is still very young.
Absolutely. I think he's just turned 40. So he's very young.
I mean, very young and still very inexperienced. What is it? His second full season?
Yeah, second full season. Absolutely.
As Arsenal manager. And, you know, it's not the good old days where you could shuffle through it like Sir Alex did when he took over Man United, the team that was, let's be honest, before Sir Alex got there, Man United hadn't really been relevant much since the 70s. So it wasn't like.
But now with today's money and stuff like that, they need results now. They need a coach in now. And
your timeline is 3 full seasons. And if you don't get it done in 3 full seasons, you know, that Arsene Wenger got as long as he did without winning anything is testament to what he had done to that point, and the fact that the board knew that they didn't have the money to replace him if they did. And number 2, he was probably punching above his weight class with what he actually had.
Absolutely.
On the pitch
with the squad that he had. Absolutely, he was.
Yeah. He was absolutely punching above his weight class, and it's credit that he did as well as he did for as long as he did with what he had. I think his downfall was once he finally, the purse strings got lifted, he didn't really know what to do at that point.
Yeah, he had been so used to managing a different club and a different style that when he had it, you're right. He wasn't exactly sure what to do with it. Absolutely. And, you know, the game had changed so significantly, and he wasn't given the opportunity to change along with the game because of the constrictions he had. And then when that was gone, and they're like, okay, you can do this now. It's like, okay, well, wait a minute. You got to let me learn this. And they're like, well, you're 70. Let's go ahead and move on to something else.
While other clubs are surpassing us.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
in the meantime, kind of thing.
Exactly. It's again, though, I think this goes back to what London Sean had said, though. We're still a couple of transfer windows away. We're still 2 more away before we can actually legitimately compete if they don't screw it up mightily. But
a name that always gets thrown out there is like Raheem Sterling. You know, throw Larry on there. It always seems like he wants to get rid of him. Like his name's always getting transferred. If he's desperate, we'll take him. We'll take his speed. We'll take his, you know, speaking with the refs. We'll take his class.
Yeah,
I don't know, Larry. Could you see Raheem Sterling as the captain of a Premier League club?
Absolutely not. No,
Not for
I
Man
mean,
City, no. For a lower
and-
club, yeah.
I feel like he's too immature. He still has those moments where he'll miss a wide open net, and then you see him on the ground
Welcome
flopping
to
around
Arsenal.
like a little baby. Has he turned his game around recently? Yes. Do I think he's still a hell of a player? I've never said he's not. But a captain? Nah, I don't think so.
No, I think what worries me is that, Mike, you brought up a really good point about the 3 years. And we're seeing a former Arsenal player with managerial experience managing a team and looking pretty good at doing it. So I don't want them to think that, oh, look at what Vieira is doing over at Crystal Palace and expect him to come in and be the savior. I'm not saying that he couldn't or anything like that. I just don't want them to make a rash decision because he's a former player. I just don't want to see that. But
Well, we know the grass is not
we
always
saw that with
greener
Man
on-
U.
oh, we know that all the
Yeah,
time.
the
But for
grass is not always
you
greener
would
on-
not believe if Crystal Palace score a goal, the fan lines are going nuts. They're going nuts. They're all hot, and I'm like, stop, just stop. Crystal Palace also has a player on loan from Chelsea who's very good. So let's just pump the brakes. Yes,
still have Zaha.
I applaud. Listen, Vieira is getting Christian Benteke to score goals, which he's never been able to do consistently. He's scoring, okay? But all I'm saying is, like let's
It wasn't
don't make
but
any
a couple of
rash
months.
decisions. Yes, Larry. Let's just calm down. Let's
Yeah,
just calm
in the
down.
words of the immortal
Gamate,
Aaron Rodgers,
Gamate.
RELA.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think,
you
but
see
the
it though,
problem-
man. They're just like, oh my God, we need to hire Vieira. He's gonna command us. I'm like, Vieira's not playing. He's not playing.
The problem with that-
Champions.
the problem with that is that a couple of months ago, they were calling for Vieira's head. Excuse me. They were calling for Vieira's head. And now but I think the bigger problem with the situation at Arsenal is right now that you have to look and buy an interim captain. It's not that you need to just buy a player, but we're literally talking about buying a player to come in and be captain of the team. Do you
who might not see the field?
Yeah. Do you have the
it's going to
young
end up being
players?
Granit Xhaka, which bothers me, but it is.
Yeah. Do you have the young players in the likes of Gabriel, Bukayo Saka, Emil Smith Rowe, who could all step up and be the captain of the team one day? Yes. Are we talking about
20.
with each one of them about 4 or 5 years down the road?
Exactly.
Yes.
You
But
got to
right
remember,
now,
Arsenal's core are 21 years old.
Yeah,
They're
you need to
21
bring
years
in
old.
somebody
Youngest team.
to be captain of this team right now, but you need to bring them in, and that is a hell of an ask. That is a huge
Hell, I mean,
ask.
hell, if Takahiro Tomiyasu gets English a bit better, I would support him being a captain as well. I would.
He's still a
But
young
he's
player.
also, he's 23. He's 23.
You're talking about turning around the reins of a player who you're talking about turning over the reins of the team to be captain to a player who hasn't even fully developed at their own position yet.
Yeah.
Right. If you want to talk about a way to retard a player's development, make him captain.
Make him captain. Yeah.
Let them have to worry about all of that ancillary stuff with trying to worry about their own game.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You saw what it did to Fabregas. And then he didn't blossom as a player until he left Arsenal. Then he really blossomed. He got better.
Because then he could figure out how to be his own player.
And Fabregas,
he didn't have to worry about that.
You know how old Fabregas was when they made him captain? 24.
Mm-hmm. But he became captain by default because everybody else was gone.
Now, granted, Fabregas also begged for it, but still.
Mm-hmm. But once the likes of Van Persie and stuff left, who was left on that team? So they had no. Well, we're going to change directions a little bit. Welcome in. We heard from Larry earlier. We're going to welcome in Celtic Cam and our good friend Los to talk about the third of the 3 European competitions that was drawn over the weekend. The UEFA European Conference League. Now, Celtic and Spurs have arrived at this slightly differently. First thing I want to talk about is with Los. we're not even 100% sure that Spurs are going to be in it.
No, we're not.
There's been a COVID outbreak at Spurs that has forced them to postpone 3 games, including their UEFA Conference League game with Runt, who they have basically said, we are not going to play this game. And we're going to leave it up to the UEFA to decide whether or not we go through in this competition.
Well,
So,
that's I want to clarify. That is the French team that said we're not going to play this game.
it was also
Because Spurs said, hey, we've got, I forget which day it was, the 12th or the 15th. We've got this date on the calendar. Let's go ahead and schedule then.
But there's also some debate as to whether or not Spurs had or can prove that they had the adequate players to play on that night. Premier League and UEFA rules are a little bit different insofar as how many players have to be available. I think the rule for UEFA is if you have 13 available players, including 2 goalkeepers, which Spurs may have had senior teams. And they're also saying that you guys had sent a youth team over to, Mora to play. Why couldn't they do the same? So they're saying we were here. You guys should have told us ahead of time that we weren't going to play. So we didn't, fly. And then, Spurs did offer them the date of the 15th, which the French team said they couldn't play. So it's been left up to the UEFA to decide who should forfeit the game, or who should call the game first. Los, based on your take on that, I'm going to believe that you blame the French.
Absolutely. I mean, we have a date. We had a date set, hey, let's do it this day. It's before the 31st, which it meets the UEFA guideline. They wanted it done before the 31st. And we're like, okay, that's fine. Let's go pick. Like I said, I don't remember if it's the 12th or 15th, one of those 2 days. Anyway, Spurs said, here, we got this date. Can you guys play? And Ren was like, well, we're not going to play. And not, hey, that doesn't work well with our calendar, but no, we're just not going to play this game. So Spurs acted in good faith to try and get this thing rescheduled. But so now here's the thing, and this is my take on it, because they made the effort to reschedule and the French club said, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to play. That sounds to me like they have given up and they have forfeited the match, which sucks for the Dutch team, Vitesse, because, it wasn't decided on the field, but it just, it is what it is. But the Spurs did reach out. They did give a date. The French said, meh, and that's where we're at. So by my understanding of it, we were ready to play. They declined. That sounds like they forfeited. And so it would be Spurs and Rennes. Now, wouldn't this be a nice little twist of fate if UEFA said, hey, you know what? We don't like the fact you forfeited the match. You can't move on. We're going to move Spurs and Vitesse through. I don't think there's anything in the bylaws for that. But wouldn't that be something? Then
we know for a fact that can't happen because Spurs and Vitesse were drawn for the same match in the group state.
Yes, I understand.
So that,
but here's the thing: if Rennes being number 1 got drawn to whoever they got drawn to, I forgot who they got drawn to. But if they're number 1, and then you go ahead and say, okay, fine, we're going to move Spurs and Vitesse through, then who's 1, who's 2, and whoever's 1 takes the place of Rennes in their round of 16. But I don't think there's anything in their bylaws for that. So I think it's going to be. That's why the French are like, it doesn't matter to us. We're going through anyway, so screw you guys. We're going home. That's exactly what they were doing. It is what it is. We're supposed to find out later this week. But it boils down to this. I mean, it's another thing too. The match 1 in group stage is 500,000 euros. I mean, that's part of this too. Then that's all. I mean, so you technically could have. Spurs could be out and lost the chance for the €500,000 euros. So there's money involved here, not a lot of money, in the grand scheme of things, but it's still money that can be used to help in the transfer period. But,
however this decision is made, Stead, Larry, Cam, this is going to, you're going to have a lot of people who are going to be upset. On the one hand, I can easily see Los's argument. We gave him a date, we offered to play, we acted in good faith. On the other hand, you can easily see where Renz is coming from. We showed up on the date the game was willing to be played. Our understanding was that you had the personnel to play. You have shown a willingness to field players, younger players, youth players. If you had the requisite numbers to field a team, you should have shown up and played. Why did you wait until that day to tell us that you weren't going to play the game? Why not postpone when you even thought that it wasn't going to be feasible for us to play the game? Why did you wait when you canceled the game on Sunday, the week ahead of time? Why did you wait until Thursday when you could have easily said Tuesday or Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday? You could have seen it. This is where I guess UEFA steals their money. Stead, I want to get your thoughts on this one because it is a very complex situation. Shed, he just gives me, he just gives me the shoulder shrug.
Look,
like,
all I'm saying is this.
I don't know what to say. Tell you.
Well,
boss.
look, all I'm saying is this. When clubs have been having players, they were told they still had to play. So Spurs had players, and I'm not saying Spurs are the ones that said that had the ability to cancel the game, but
they did.
They had players.
They canceled the first game.
They had players to play.
Mm-hmm.
So
they called that game off.
It was called off. So I see the point where it's like, whoa, we came, we were ready to play.
But the game wasn't called off because Spurs didn't call off that game. It was the Department of Health that did that because of COVID. They said, you guys, these people cannot play. So I'm not sure how many we were talking about and whether or not that depleted the roster enough to where it was less than the UEFA guidelines. But
I think that's going to be what the big Los, to be honest, I think that's going to be what the big question is.
Right.
I agree.
Who called the game? Did Spurs call the game? Did the Department of Health call the game? Did Spurs have the numbers to play the game? Could they have fielded a team to play that game on that day? If they didn't, and they acted in good faith along the way, gave Renz the opportunity to come back, and Renz said no, then by all means, I'm with you. They deserve to go through. I'm sorry, Vitesse. I hate that happened to you, but I can understand it's one of the things that we have to deal with in COVID in 2020. If it turns out that Spurs just didn't play because they kind of wanted to muddy up the works, and they saw this as we're going to take our gamble off the field, then look, I feel for you, brother, but I don't know what to tell you, boss.
Can I ask a quick question?
Go for it, Larry.
Louis, you're saying the Department of Health said that they could not play. They said that those players could not play, or Tottenham as a whole was not allowed to play?
I think the decision was made for the players that had COVID, that they were out. They could not participate. So that's the problem. Although if you have COVID, if you test positive, you're not supposed to play.
No.
Unless you're Norwich City and you just fake all your tests and you go ahead and get everybody else infected. So
apparently that's what they've been doing, because it does seem like everybody has an outbreak after they played Norwich City. If we had London Sean on, I would like to understand what is going on with the Canaries, that everybody who goes to Norwich and plays ends up with a COVID outbreak. I'm starting to sense something's up. And
because Man U is postponed, right? Or they postponed a match, right?
They postponed their match against Brentford today, right? But that was mutually done, and that was to be expected. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if that was if they were postponed for this weekend also. there are so many questions that are going on again with this.
Could be another postponement coming up Thursday. Leicester apparently had like 7 guys with COVID.
Well, between that, the Omicron outbreak and things like that, I don't know the ins and outs. Like, Los, you know as well as I do what the NFL stance is on this. If you're vaccinated, you can return 2 tests, not negative tests, within 48 hours, and then you're cleared to play. It does not seem like that's the case with the Premier League. You're also dealing with a different set of vaccines. Premier League has the AstraZeneca, the J&J, the availability of it, how many of the players are vaccinated. We don't know those things over here simply because they just haven't been as well reported. So, I imagine that we'll continue to see COVID postponements, but this is the one that has really kind of, it's been very interesting. And to say that it couldn't have had an impact on the draw because you had to have the test and Spurs in that European Conference League draw, and they both had restrictions as to who they could play. They couldn't play each other, but then they couldn't play any other Dutch teams or any other English teams, which meant that Spurs couldn't be drawn against Leicester City, and the test couldn't have been drawn against Eindhoven, but Spurs could have been drawn against Eindhoven, and Vitesse could have been drawn against Leicester City.
Sure, right.
And given UEFA's earlier track record with managing to get the right balls in, it's amazing that they didn't muck this one up too. Maybe they did it by default. Only UEFA could screw around with 4 balls and still not make it work.
I just like to say, I know you guys are going to talk about this later. Real Madrid got hosed on the redraw. Just saying. Okay.
Unless you were Chelsea, you were going to get hosed when that happened, because only Chelsea managed to come up with Lille twice. I know that Real Madrid was very happy at first, but yeah, they kind of did get hosed on that draw going to getting PSG. So let's focus on this, and we'll bring in Cam. The last question, Los, before we get with the Cam and we look at this draw, how bothered by this are the Spurs? Because it seems like the only reason they want to stay in this competition, not because they really care about it, but because they don't want to be embarrassed and go out of it.
Well, I mean, who wants to get out of it? I mean, first off, everyone's talking about, oh, this is a Tin Cup trophy. It's level 3 Europa. Nobody wants to be there. But look who's joining us. It's Leicester City. I mean, they're not having an auspicious year this year. But I mean, historically, in the past few years, they've had some good seasons. They got some great players. So I know UEFA is welcoming them with open arms into this tournament. Yeah, nobody wants to get out of this because here's the thing. We're already got the whole thing of no trophies in the last 12 years. And and you can't even win this Tin Cup trophy. So yeah, there's going to be that. But you still want to win the games that you play. You still want to win the games that you're assigned to, the game you have in front of you. You still want to win. You don't want to lose. You don't want to draw. You want to win. That's why you play. You play to win. So yeah, everyone will be upset if we are knocked out of the tournament. And if we get knocked out because of a COVID forfeit, that's not going to sit well with anybody. But it's just it is going to be whatever it's going to be, and we find out apparently later this week.
So, Cam, we find ourselves in a place with Celtic that I don't remember being in a while. A potential winnable European tie after New Year's. What has I know that they came off of a great win, a very, very, very solid performance. and probably, I got to be honest, Cam, one of their better European campaigns for quite a while. Picking up away wins, looking competitive on the road, winning at home. They hung in there with the likes of Leverkusen. They beat Betis after a really, really rough go in the first one. I thought all in all, picking up the 9 points that they did was pretty doggone solid for Celtic. But they find themselves, they drop down into the European Conference League. But the draw didn't do any. If you can figure out the team that they're playing, I can't even figure out how to pronounce it because it looks a lot like Bozo.
Yeah, no, this so this team is actually kind of a team up and on the rise. They were relegated in 2016, came back in 2017, and then last season they actually won their first Norwegian title in their 104, 105-year history. And then actually this past weekend, they just won it as well. So this is a team that, one way to think about it is, don't forget, this is the team that handed Jose Mourinho his worst ever loss in over 1,000 games that he's been a manager, beating Roma 6-1. This is, I think, a very kind of Dark Knight type of team. They play a similar style of football, high possession, high attacking. I think this is actually going to be an interesting team to play, especially when we're playing them, on an artificial pitch and, -7 degrees up in Norway. So, I think we did get, a better draw than some of the other teams, but I think this is a draw that we're going to have to be careful with in terms of, the coach. I don't know how to pronounce Knutson or something like that. And then they've got a player, Botham, who has had 21 goals so far this season. He's only 21. So I think this is a better draw than others, but I say that, in a very tenured, tempered way.
But you're going up against a team that will not have played a competitive match for the better part of 60 days when you play them. The Norwegian league is over. They played their last match this weekend. As you said, Bodo Glimt won they won the league. They won the league. But they're on a holiday. Yes, going up to Norway in February is really, 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 I mean, that is good. All the suckiness that you can possibly imagine. But then again, it's not like Glasgow's the southernmost city in the world. I mean, y'all are pretty much up there. Isn't it an advantage that Celtic will be in the middle of their season while I don't even know whether Glint would be in preseason. It's kind of like the middle of their break.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and that's one of the things that I've seen that is going to be a boost. I mean, thankfully, the game that we have right before that is Aberdeen away, but there's enough, there's a decent amount of time for the players to rest up and things like that. And I actually think that's the perfect game to prepare for, this Bodo Glimt matchup. Aberdeen, they're good, but they're not quite, Rangers right now. So I think it's a good game to keep us sharp, get those, I think it's like 10 days, 5 or 10 days rest before the game. And then, as you say, I think they're going to be a bit rusty. As you say, they're not in preseason. It's quite a while after their season's ended. So I think that's going to be a huge, huge advantage, especially in terms of the away leg. As you mentioned, how hellish it's going to be up there.
The other thing, normally we look and we say having the away leg at home second is an advantage. But UEFA has changed it this year. Away goals no longer count. So that has been a bit diminished. Also, could it be an advantage for Celtic this time to have the home leg first? Like we've talked about, they're coming off of a long break. They're going to get them at home. Conceivably, if you can put one of those classic Celtic Park European night performances in, win by multiple goals, you could almost avoid sending the bulk of the first team kind of, I don't know, take the foot off the gas in the return leg in Norway, go up there with fewer things to worry about.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, one thing that I'm kind of already watching is the injury list for Celtic. We had in the last few games, we've had a number of injuries. So really key players, Jota, Furuhashi, who is expected to come back for the Old Firm, but who knows, sort of thing. Ralston had to go off injured. There's some big names there. Most of them are only a few weeks out, but as we get into these colder months, we tend to see more injuries, especially, at least I've seen in Scotland more injuries as we come into the colder months. People are stretching, just the temperature. So I am a little worried about, how injury prone we've been this season. So, I think getting that home win is important, but then I think, letting off the gas in up in Norway, I think that it's a little risky to me, especially with how we've seen this team perform, at home against Roma. I mean, 6-1, like against Roma, that's a big deal. So I hesitate to say that, we could maybe go up to Norway and take our foot off the gas, because I think that's kind of what they're going to be expecting, to be honest, when we go up there.
So, Los, we know we talked about the hypothetical that they won't be in the tournament. Let's talk about the hypothetical that Spurs are. If they continue through in this tournament, they will play Rapid Vienna. Want to get your feelings on how you feel, given the way that this has gone, about this matchup with the Austrians.
Well, I mean, that will be who we get drawn with, Rapid. And I found something interesting about these guys. Their fans are known for this rhythmic clapping for the last 15 minutes that's used to inspire the team. They actually have a name for it. Germans got a name for everything. But this
They're
name,
not-
the name is Rapid wird die Stunde. That's rhythmic clapping for the last 15 minutes. So that was intriguing, but that's about as much as I got into finding about Rapid Vienna. So or Rapid Wien, I think is another way they pronounce
Rapid
that.
Wien is how
yeah.
it would be in German, or whatever they speak in Austrian. Yes, beautiful sounding language. German is Cam. I love it.
Sounds like everybody's in trouble and going to get a timeout every time someone speaks in German. So
It's the only language where you can say the Hail Mary and it still sounds like you're cussing somebody out.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
It is the greatest language in the world for giving somebody business. Even if you're giving them the highest compliment in the world, it still sounds like you're telling them off.
Yeah.
And I also love the philosophy of German. If we don't have a word for it, we will cram 7 other words together and make one very long one.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, Germans are good for creating words where they don't exist and making it sound, it's a definition of something that, it just happens in everyday life, but they got a word for it. So
I was walking down the street in Germany, and I'm not sure, Los, whether you had this experience when you were in the army. I was walking down the street, and I was walking down the middle of the street, and I walked into the street sign that was on the corner just because the name of the street was so long. Kaiser Spilka Flugel Hasselstrasse. I've never seen.
You sure that was the only reason?
Yes, I'm pretty sure, because at that point in time, I hadn't started drinking yet. I was on my way to the bar. In fact, I had to turn around and go home because I got a concussion from walking into the street sign for the street that was 80 letters long.
And the thing of it is, it probably isn't that way just at that particular intersection. It's at every single intersection where you have that street. I got to come up with even with we have Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Everyone just calls it MLK. Mm-hmm. So, that's that maybe some sort of special abbreviation for that word exists. Who knows?
So we're gonna turn the page on this and go from talking about. I do want to point out that, and looking through this, it is the first leg. It is the teams that finished second versus the teams that dropped down from the Europa League, right, for the right to play in the round of 16. So it's not a full round of 32. It's an auxiliary round of 16. That doesn't mean that this competition can't put up the odd good game. I'm looking through and seeing in the first rounds, you have Fenerbahce versus Slavia Prague, Midtjylland, who's a team that I've seen very often in the Europa League, playing against PAOK in Athens. Eindhoven versus the Israeli team Maccabi Tel Aviv, who've been there or thereabouts in European competition before, and Sparta Prague and Partizan Belgrade. That could be a fun one, a good old-fashioned Eastern European matchup.
It's
right
it's not terrible for a third-level European tournament when you think about it.
It really isn't. Even when you look at Karabakh, the Azerbaijani team, they beat Manchester United last year. And unfortunately for Marseille, that's going to be a hell of a trip to play in the middle of Azerbaijan in February. Anybody want to hazard a guess that it's going to be kind of inclement out there when they go to play that one?
Yeah, Celtics played them a few times, and that trip really takes a toll. I mean, the hours to get from the UK to there, I mean, probably not that much different from France, and it's a hell of an experience for the players traveling out there. It's pretty brutal.
So we're going to turn tail. I'm going to welcome him at this point, Byron Robb. How you doing?
Peace out, gents.
Fantastic.
All right. And there's this dude who is down in the bottom of my screen who I don't know whether he really exists or not. And if I could poke him, I will. But there is this thing that says William. So I'm assuming that may or may not be either British Will or the ghost of British Will.
It's the ghost of Christmas past. That's what I am.
It sounds like British Will. Could it really be?
I think it might be.
After all these months, yes, I know that you were on last week, but I wasn't. So therefore, this is our reunion, and I'm only fully acknowledging your return this week when I see you. How's it going, gentlemen?
Fantastic on my end.
So, unfortunately, Andy the Hammer couldn't join us this week. He is busy covering a college basketball game, and he is actually the only one of us who has a team in the Europa League. I've done my research, and I'm pretty sure that he's the only one of us that has a team in the Europa League.
I don't know. Isn't Arsenal in the Europa League?
Nope, not in Europe at all.
Yeah, it's very funny.
We already
very funny, Will. Very funny, Will. Saving that one for weeks, haven't you?
The funny thing was, Will, I already beat
Good
you
old
to
Michael
it
Owen
because
analysis there.
yeah.
Well, I mean, it's better than being in the third tier of European competition, which is what Tottenham's in.
No, I'd take that right now, to be honest with you.
He wants to explore Europe.
You already took that low blow?
I already took the low blow. I was saying like we had to talk about Arsenal first because we were going to spend the remainder of the time talking about teams that were still playing in Europe.
Oh yeah. That's pretty good.
But
just leave. Just get off camera right now. You're fine.
Yeah.
Slowly sink down.
Absolutely, yeah.
I will say though that it is a very, very, very interesting draw for this for these 8 games in this preliminary round of 16, probably because it features a lot of teams that if you had asked me at the beginning of the tournament, I wouldn't have said that they would be there, either because I didn't think that they were going to fall out of the Champions League, or because I really didn't think they would even have a chance of making it. Amongst the unseeded teams that are falling down, Dortmund, of course, Barcelona, and FC Sheriff, the Darlings.
Well, it depends on who
They
you
don't-
ask.
They don't have a sponsor, but they have a beer.
They have a
And
gas station
Atalanta
too.
dropped down too. Atalanta dropped down.
Well, and I'll give you this. If I thought it was a crapshoot in between, if you'd asked me at the very beginning, I'm not surprised Atalanta dropped down. I would have said out of that group, it would have been a crapshoot in between either Atalanta or Villarreal, and I could have seen either one of them doing it. If you would have asked me after 2 games have been played, I would have been surprised that it wasn't Manchester United. The same with Leipzig. I can't really be surprised in a group with PSG and City that they were the ones that fell out. Of course, the biggest surprise has to be Barcelona failing to get out of their group, courtesy of Bayern Munich, and a very, 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 very limp display in a 3-0 victory against Bayern last week.
You're welcome.
I mean,
Well,
I don't know that it's overly shocking. And this is coming from someone who did say that they were going to get out of the group. I said it on the pod, not last time, but the time before when I was on. I said,
what was that, last year?
It was in August. We were talking about how they were most likely going to make it out of the group. It wouldn't be unheard of if they didn't, but they'll most likely make it out of the group because they're Barcelona and they'll pull it together. And they're Barcelona and they didn't pull it together, which is not overly surprising either, given them losing Sergio Aguero, their main summer signing, to heart problems, half of their team being injured, them having a completely directionless manager for the last 2 seasons, and basically relying entirely on Lionel Messi for the last 4. So you lose the thing that you've been relying on and you fall out in 3rd place. I think they were pretty lucky to get 3rd place. I don't think it had anything. I mean, it did have something to do with Bayern Munich winning, but that wasn't really a question, was it? That group, it wasn't a question Bayern was going to win the group. A question was 2nd place. And a couple of you, I believe, did say that Barcelona dropped out in 3rd place. And so I don't think it was overly shocking, and especially seeing the way they've been playing and the way that they've pulled it together, I think that, they're they're lucky to be in 3rd in that group. Let's put it that way.
I think they're lucky to be in 3rd, but now the question has become I just was guilty of doing really bad radio right there. The question is whether or not they will play. There have been discussions amongst the Barcelona hierarchy about simply just forfeiting the tie because they feel that the Europa League is beneath them. It was the early 2000s, I believe 2002, the last time they didn't qualify for the Champions League group stage, and they have won it 4 times since then.
2003, 4.
Yeah, 3-4. So I was off by a year. 3-4 was and they've won it 4 times since then, including their first time over Arsenal.
I saw a stat too. Guess what team Messi scored the most goals in the Champions League against?
Awesome.
Arsenal. I think it's 11. And I've seen all 11 of them.
Is this even realistic? If I'm being honest, I think that they really need to make a go at it, because based on where they sit and how they look in the league, it's not out of the question that they could fail to qualify for the Champions League and miss out entirely on Europe next year unless they win this particular tournament. And it is not a given that they're going to win this tournament based on how they have played. Stead, do you think Barca's hubris could cause them to almost throw this opportunity away in a manner with which they would come to regret later on? Because let's be honest, Napoli is not the team that they were a couple of years ago, but they're also not an easy out. And even if it's just for nostalgia's sake, on these Thursdays where we're getting these games, that's probably the one that's going to draw the most eyes. Barcelona and Napoli, even if they're shadows of what their former selves are, it's still enough to get me to tune in.
Absolutely. And Barcelona, I mean, judging by their fan base, absolutely, considering that they're whining about the Bayern game, when it's like, you're lucky you only lost 3-0. And I also think, though, Europa League, as far as the prestige of the tournament, has significantly increased in the past 5 years. I mean, you have the likes of big English teams who have won that tournament and have seemed quite happy to do so, with Chelsea winning and Manchester United winning and being genuinely happy. It's a good tournament. And look, us Arsenal fans, who Europe has never been the best thing for Arsenal, but to a team that has won trophies, to see the disappointment when we didn't win after 2 finals really lets you know that that is a prestigious tournament now. It's not the Europa League of 20 years ago. And I would think that Barcelona would not only regret it, they would regret it a week after they made that decision. With you also have, you wouldn't want Ansu Fati to get this experience. I mean, he's basically the player that you're putting all of your money behind right now, him and Pedri. You wouldn't want them to have these games. You don't want them to get these Europe ties. I would, absolutely. And it would be a real slap in the face to the other 8 teams that have dropped down. I really like this little playoff that they're doing. I think it's very cool to have your group winners move on, and then your second place teams have this little playoff that they have to do in order to be able to qualify. I think it's really exciting. And yeah, I'm going to tune in, and I could see them possibly grimacing if they had to play the likes of, I don't know, some third place team in Latvia, but they're not. They're playing against Napoli, and you're having home and home against Napoli. So stop, play the games, play your best. And to be honest with you, I'm not picking Barcelona. I think Napoli's going to take them. I think they're going to take them. I do.
I mean, I think that I've said it before on this. The Europa League is a kicking post for everyone who's not in the Europa League until you're in the Europa League.
Yep.
And then you want to win it.
Absolutely.
And the reason you want to win it is because it's a legitimate shot at Europe, and it's a legitimate trophy. And the reason it's a legitimate trophy is because, you do actually have to be somewhat good to get into it. You don't have to be great. You have to be somewhat good. And yeah, we're going to laugh at Barcelona and the fact that they're in the Europa League, because you have to. It's the law. Like, you have to laugh at Manchester United when they're in the Europa League. You have to laugh at Arsenal. You have to laugh at Liverpool. You have to laugh at every team that is trying to win in the Europa League. That is the law. But if your team is playing in the Europa League, if your team is playing in the Europa League, you are going to watch every game, and you're going to hope that they win every game, because you want what's at the end of the tunnel.
I think it really changed, though, when they put a Champions League place on the line for the winner of the Europa League. Now, all of a sudden, it became, oh, wait, hey. And then another significant thing happened when Manchester United won it. And by nature of winning the Europa League, they were able to accumulate enough ratings points to boost their coefficient enough to jump a pot. So teams have started to say, all right, not only can I get guaranteed into Europe through this path, but by playing and winning these games, I can maybe go from pot 4 to pot 3 to pot 2. If I'm not going to win my league, this could be a boon for me. Maybe not financially, but definitely in terms of how I'm going to be in the Champions League next year. And that's why I think you see a lot more teams going for it now. Spain realized that first. England has started to catch on. We'll see how Germany does with this. Rob, it'll be an interesting tie. This one drew my eye simply because I really need Borussia Dortmund to beat Rangers.
Me too. I want to see the Erling Haaland show. I want to see him smack around Rangers over in Scotland and just announce himself that, you know, this tournament is beneath me, and I'm going to score hat tricks until I get to the final. That's what I'm looking. I can't wait, and especially because it's Rangers. All right, you know, nobody loves Rangers on this whole crew over here. So yes, please, Haaland, Gio Reyna, Malin, Marco Royce, yeah, all of you, please just score goals and have no shame. Do a bicycle kick if you have to. Do everything. Just embarrass the crap out of them, please.
I think that if Morelos is playing, though, it's going to be the Haaland versus Morelos fight club, because what Morelos does is he goes and he scores a hat trick, and then he gets into a fight and gets a red card and is banned for 5 games.
That's the Morelos hat trick. It's like the Paul Scholes hat trick. You get a goal, and assist, and a red card.
Hey, just real quick, there's one little interesting storyline between the Dortmund and Rangers game. So Giovanni Reyna, who's is named after the manager of Rangers, which is Giovanni van Broekhuis, I think it's that.
Van Bronckhorst. Giovanni
Yeah.
Van Bronckhorst, yeah.
So yeah, he was teammates with Claudio Reyna when they were over at Rangers together. So there you go. So Giovanni Reyna is going to go up against the guy who he's named after.
Well, honestly, look, I just need Dortmund to win. If Dortmund win and Rangers go out and Celtic advance, and Celtic gets the lion's share of all the European money in Scotland, because they'll be the last team surviving, even if they are in a competition below. And I just want to see Rangers lose.
I also think, though, the Europa League's going to want to see. They're going to want to see as many of these Champions League clubs stay. They're going to want to see that. But you're looking at the teams who are there. Yeah, you want to see Leipzig there. You want to see Barcelona there. You want to see Dortmund win. You want to see Sevilla win. I mean, look, this is Sevilla's tournament. You know, Sevilla, when they came down, they're like, okay, we just go back home again. Like, if there was one team you do not want to play in the Europa League, it's Sevilla. So
yeah, they've already bribed the refs. 3 clear hand goals. 3 clear. I'm not letting it go.
Absolutely. And you know, I didn't agree with you at the time until they beat Arsenal. Now I'm like, yep, there were 3 handballs. Absolutely.
You see what I mean?
Absolutely, 3 handballs. You gotta be kidding me.
Whoever does get through the draw, though, the Europa League has some. Let's just put it this way: the actual last 16 of the Europa League is going to make for some interesting viewing.
Oh, it's going to be wonderful. Are you kidding me?
Whoever gets through, you're going to have West Ham, Leverkusen, Galatasaray, an Eintracht Frankfurt team that has proven capable, Monaco and Lyon waiting for you on the backhand.
I mean, it is now a Champions League B. It wasn't 5 years ago.
No,
I really agree with
think
you.
it is a Champions League B.
No, you're not seeing Ludogorets in the semifinal anymore, and it's that. And I mean, I don't want to say it's a good thing for those clubs, but if you want to keep the prestige in the tournament and you want to continue to grow it, you want the big teams to be there. But also, this tournament, what's great about this tournament is it's set up for a giant killer. It's set up for that. It's set up for a team that manages to squeak through and gets to the playoff round to knock out a big boy. And then if you do that, then you're beating your chest. You think you can beat anybody. So I feel like there's a lot more excitement for the chalk to not happen. I mean, in Champions League, it's usually chalk. You know who's going to win. And whereas when you're looking at this tournament now, it's like, yeah, all these 8 teams from Champions League came down, but they can't come and rest, because these other teams that managed to finish second in their group, if they get let's say they go up 3-0 in the first leg, they could easily move on. So I think it's really exciting. I mean, these February 17th, February 24th are days where I'm actually going to see if I can get my assistant coach to cover sports, so I can actually sit in my office and watch these games.
I think you make a very good point, both of you. Well, it is a Champions League bait, but instead it does have the right amount of upset and giant killing, We know it's not going to be chalk. Simply, even if you go just on the timeline, playing that Thursday, Sunday schedule is a killer.
It's tough.
It is a killer. You have enough big names left in the likes of Sevilla. We talked the ones who I just named, plus Sevilla, Atalanta, Olympiacos, Leipzig, Barca, Lazio, Porto, Napoli. But then you also have the likes of FC Sheriff. Seriously, wouldn't it? I mean, if I wasn't going to want to watch that Barcelona Napoli game, I'd want to watch the Sheriff Braga tie. And I made this what Sheriff has got to be the coolest team left in the competition, having gone to Real Madrid and won their first 2 times. They have literally been in European competition since, I think, June. Going into Braga to play, and if you haven't seen Braga Stadium, it is one of the coolest in the world. It is built into a rock quarry.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that game will be fun to watch just for the sake of, and wouldn't it be cool to see Braga advance, right? You're going to get a couple of giant killings in here. And I think that, this iteration of the Europa League and this new format for the Europa League has the potential to make these next 2 rounds, the initial round of 16 and the actual round of 16, probably more compelling over that 4 weeks than the Champions League round of 16 will be over the 4 weeks that it takes to play that.
I mean, if we're transitioning to the Champions League.
No, I do. I will transition to the Champions League after that, but I do want to get your thoughts on, like,
I don't know.
I think Champions League because it's Champions League, and the Champions League has great matchups. It has historic rivalries and things like that. But I'm saying, like, these next 2 rounds have some very, if you want to just watch football and see some intriguing matchups being played against teams and possible giant killings and things like that, I think that the Thursday has potential to deliver a little bit more excitement than Tuesdays and Wednesdays do.
I don't know about that one. I think that, I mean, I can see your point. I can see your point about the potential for upsets. You can see all of that.
I think it does.
I think that the Champions League and the teams that are playing in the Champions League, they're never set. And they're never set because the teams that you think will have won the Champions League for the last 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, haven't won the Champions League for the last 3, 4, 5 years. The only team that you could say was maybe not one of those ones was Bayern Munich, not last year, but the year before. Like, that's the only team in the contention, because everyone has been saying for the last 3 or 4, 5 years, it's Man City or it's PSG, and they haven't won. And they haven't won because they have fallen out early in most of those years. And they have fallen out because
kind of what we look to see is
that's my magic at the Champions League, because the Champions League, no, it's not going to be a giant killer. It's going to be a giant beating up another giant and then going through.
So
I will say though, hold on a second, Mike. I will say this though. I think your point though is correct, at least for the next round. Those February games, if you look at the February games in the Champions League, really only 2 out of the 8 games are really ones that have an intriguing matchup. You have Atletico Madrid, Manchester United, PSG, Real Madrid. The other ones, I'm sorry, they're just, the intrigue of those games isn't there like I feel like it is with Europa League. So I will say, at least in these February games, I do agree with you. Now, once we get beyond those February games, that I think the story will change when you get to, Champions League being 8 and you seeing then, because Europa League will still be at 16 teams.
No, they'll play those. They will play the first and second round of 16s before
Yeah,
the
at the same
Champions
time,
League,
they're
before the Champions League finishes
plays their
one
second
round.
round. Yeah,
No,
no, that's
they'll
true. I
both-
forgot.
they'll
No,
all
you're,
be
no,
at-
you're right.
They'll
They'll
all
do
be
both
at-
of those games when they're
Yeah.
doing their first weekend. Yes,
That's what I'm saying,
I
though.
misspoke.
think-
I misspoke. But yes,
Okay, so
I'm
as
just
long as you
saying, though,
understand
that-
I
yeah.
think I
I
agree with
think
you.
I think in February, though, I would say this for the month of February. I will say I think
Yeah.
Europa League is a bit more exciting for the month of February.
Well,
No, certainly not long term, because eventually we want to see who the best team
Absolutely.
in Europe is.
Absolutely. And depending how that shakes out for Europa League, that's going to also change a lot too. Let's see who wins those games, then we'll see if the intrigue is still there.
Yeah.
So I love this round of the Europa League because if you're like you don't really care for one of these teams, like if you just love the game, you love it for what it is, you're neutral. There's so many intriguing matchups. You could watch almost all of them and be shocked by something. Like the Sheriff game and the Braga game will be intriguing because is Sheriff are they a fluke or are they gonna actually put it together and advance out of this round? I mean, I don't know. Are we going to see the German teams meet up with all the German teams again in the next round? I mean, in Sevilla, of course. I mean, there's so many intriguing matchups here. There's so many like storylines. There's really no prediction. I mean, I'm curious to see what the books are because, I mean, it's going to be really hard to predict. Almost anybody can take out anybody in this round, and I think that's one of the most intriguing parts of it. Well, at least in the first round of the Champions League. Like you guys said, there's only like a couple early matchups that you're really kind of confused about as to whether one's going to win and who's not going to win. But this Europa League time, I mean, this round, the first preliminary round, this is beautiful. This is good stuff. Thursday nights are going to be really, really hard. Block it off, because it's great. It's beautiful, and I can't wait. And I can't wait to see which teams make it out of this round to meet the number one seeds of the Europa League, because those matchups in themselves are going to be also intriguing.
That's why I think this has a lot of potential. I hope they stay with it.
Yeah, this is all. But I will say though, it's all gravy. This is all just great. This is great.
This is great.
You gotta
great.
love it, man.
This
This is
is
great
great.
gravy.
This is-
It's the gravy on the mashed potatoes, baby.
This is one time where I actually think that UEFA, through no fault of their own, actually lucked into something good.
Agreed.
And one point that I didn't bring up, though, we were talking about Barcelona not playing. Right? I think they really need to take this seriously, given the fact that the stink is still on them from the Super League. And I can't imagine that UEFA would take too kindly to them after all of that. Remember, they're one of the only teams that never renounced the Super League.
One of the three. Yep.
Yeah,
One of the three.
stayed in it, still swears by it, right? If they were to, if they were to thumb their nose at a European competition that they were in because they qualified for it, meaning that they messed up enough and that they didn't play well enough in the Champions League to get out of the group stage, but then decided, oh, we're too good to play in this. I could expect that there might be some at the best increased scrutiny over their books, which we know are not the most balanced in the world. At worst, some out and out punishments.
They can't afford not to play this game. They
have to play.
Can't afford it.
Well, they can't, and that's what literally they cannot afford it. They need the money. Sorry, as I banged my screen.
They like to act like they can, though. That's the sad thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. They want to act like they can, but they need the money. They need the money to balance the books. They need the money to avoid, if they need the money to keep UEFA off their back. Right now, UEFA is going to allow them to function because they kind of still need them to exist. But if they mess with them and UEFA decides to take a good, long, hard look at those books, what do you think they're really going to find?
I mean, they're not going to find any money. They're going to find another Palmer situation. But like the thing is, La Liga, the only thing that's keeping La Liga going right now is having Real Madrid in it. is Florentino Perez's money in Real Madrid. That's the only thing keeping La Liga going, because Barcelona has the entire possibility of collapsing, up in the ears, falling down to 12, falling down to a Sunderland type situation.
I'm 100% with you with that, but that just because La Liga needs Barcelona to be competitive to keep their revenue doesn't mean UEFA does.
The only reason that Barcelona isn't going to do that is because the band is getting back together of all the retiring players who want to come back and make sure that Barcelona doesn't fall apart. That's the only reason they're not in a worse position than they are right now. The band's reforming for one last go at it to hopefully drag the kids forward.
So you better hope that you can
I don't think that's going to work out.
And all of them are basically playing for free right now because so can Iniesta's corpse, led by Xavi, the manager, pass the ball to a busted up
Dani Alves, who's going to cross it to an imaginary Messi who'll eventually square it to Ansu Fati? I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably not. But
So, but let's change gears and talk about this Champions League. So we got Benfica versus Real Madrid, Villarreal versus Manchester City, Atletico Madrid versus Bayern Munich, Salzburg versus Liverpool, Inter Milan versus Ajax, Sporting versus Juventus, Chelsea versus Lille, and Paris Saint-Germain.
Don't we need to redraw this?
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
My idea for gimmick was Mike's wife coming in with a piece of paper like from the side and like, nope, you got it wrong. Do it again.
Unfortunately, my wife is asleep right now, so she couldn't do that. So I was counting on one of you to stop me.
I hope you picked out where I've stopped you.
You stopped me after I got all the way through to PSG versus Manchester United. So,
well, I mean, one of those teams could have bribed the refs, and we know it's not Manchester United because they don't open their checkbook for anything.
Clearly, they didn't open the payoff the like in the Fergie years where they got the easy round of 16 draw. They're not opening their checkbooks. All right, so the story
Are you talking about Atletico Madrid? Atletico Madrid that Liverpool beat twice, convincingly. Atletico Madrid that's had a red card in every game that they've played.
I was talking about the years back when Fergie used to pay them to make sure that he got an easy group and an easy round of 16.
We all know that happened.
Yes. I'm saying that they haven't opened their checkbook since, because if they had, they wouldn't have been drawn against PSG the first time, and they damn sure wouldn't have been drawn against Atletico Madrid, although there was kind of a feeling of inevitability. So let's backtrack on this. Apparently, there was a technical malfunction that saw Manchester United taken out of the pot to possibly play Atletico Madrid when that was one of the teams that they should have been able to play. But in their place, there was a possibility that, and I think it did happen, that Liverpool were drawn against Atletico Madrid, which shouldn't have happened because Atletico shouldn't have been in that draw in the first place because they had played in the group stage.
Yeah.
As it turns out, the draw was declared null and redrawn from the beginning. There was some argument that it should have been redrawn from the point where the mistake became evident. That was mostly leveled at by Real Madrid, who got PSG on the redraw, having been drawn against Benfica in the first place. There's no action.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes,
sorry.
Go ahead.
Mathematically, it's the complete right thing to redo the whole thing. It's the Monty Hall problem. Everyone understands that mathematically it's the completely correct thing to redraw it all.
You don't know exactly when the malfunction happened, and it did make good television.
we can make good television about jokes about what went wrong. Oh, you should have grabbed the hot ball, Andre.
Mhm.
Shevchenko, come on, you're supposed to grab the hot ball, not the cold ball. We can make good jokes about that. Realistically, someone put the wrong ball in the wrong bot, most likely.
And they said that there was that they were getting different. There was a transmission signal that caused them to pick the wrong numbers out. So they had the right number of balls to draw, but there were the wrong teams in those balls. Yes,
I mean,
Ryan.
most likely what happened is an intern is going to be fired because he didn't count balls correctly. And, you know, it happens all the time everywhere. It's just, it doesn't always make it on national television. It's going to be funny jokes and teams are going to feel gypped by it. And honestly, Liverpool got a bit gypped, I guess you could say, because they were going to play RB Salzburg, which is not exactly the most difficult team in the draw. And now they're going to play Inter Milan. But that's the thing about the Champions League. You're going to play the team you draw against. It doesn't matter how many times you play, you pull the draw. You're going to play that team. And if you don't play a hard team in the first round, you'll play a harder team in the second round. That's why they have a draw. You know,
I'm going to say that like the draw is just weird. It's very primitive. Like everybody, like us over here in the States, it's like a computer program, but they still insist of doing these balls for show. And I don't understand the show necessarily because it's not like they're selling ad space during the draw and is making money. It's just like we need to put on this pop of circumstance because it's like tradition or something, as opposed to just letting the computer figure it out and just put in a couple of things. Like obviously an English team cannot play an English team in the first round. I mean, so, and then you want to have the screw up, but you still had to screw up because you're still relying on human beings to pick the balls properly. And so I
mean, the cynic in me also. Sorry, Rob. Go ahead.
No, and then like it's almost like it's just leaving up for human error, and everybody wants to draw a conspiracy to it. And in like well, you're talking about like we gotta pick the cold ball or the hot ball or the one that's a little misshapen or the one that had a little bit of crease on it or whatever it is, you know, because you can feel creases. It's like counting cards in Vegas, you know. So it's
I
really
think you would
primitive.
have. I think the primitive nature of it is what they like. It
Yeah.
adds an air of randomness to it, which is exactly what they want. If you, it gives that, in addition to giving you a for show, it gives them an aura of randomness, right? If you just said, you know, we're going to feed this into a big IBM and it's going to spit out the draws and we'll broadcast, we'll tell you what they are in an hour-long show on first thing Monday, but this is what the computer came up with. I think people would be more upset about that because at least this way you can see kind of with your own eyes what happened, even if we don't believe it's always on the up and up. It's like that randomness, that human randomness is what they need for this to make any sort of sense, to feel any sort of comfort and how these matchups happen. Now, if it was the US, there would be a bracket from start to finish. We would have known months ago
who's playing who.
Who's playing who. It would be
who will play who, no matter what the scenario.
It would have been like, it would have been exactly like the World Cup draw, right? You finish 1-2 in this group, and we would have known everything months ago.
I mean, also the cynic in me says, "Oh, they did this kind of on purpose because they want to drum up an audience again." Like, who's going to watch a boring old competition where there's no drama, there's no sort of dodgy dealing in the background. But if you get like dodgy dealing in the background, you're like, oh, well, maybe I'm going to watch it now. I haven't watched it for 2 years. I'm going to watch it again. You know, it's like it's free advertising because it is.
But the same people who are going to watch it last year are going to watch it this year, are going to watch it the next year, are going to watch it the following year. Most of us, you either watch it or you wait for the results, right? I don't care. It's the same thing every year. I believe
I'm talking about the games after the draw. I mean, that's the cynic in me. I agree with what you're saying. And I think the reason they do a draw is kind of the reason that when you're in like a situation where you're explaining something to someone, it helps to personify things as human beings, like human nature. If you're explaining math, it helps explaining it with humans involved, because then people can feel as though they're in that situation.
See, the
If
only
you're
thing that's
picking
gonna
balls
change-
out of a hat, pick the balls out of a hat, and that instead of letting the computer do it.
Yeah. Even if eventually what they may do is replace Andrei Shevchenko with an Andrei Shevchenko lookalike robot, but there's still going to be something that is going to pick a ball out of a fishbowl and put it in and open it, right? So now that we've settled on the fact that the draw needs to happen simply because of the human randomness of it, let's talk about what we are actually looking at. Well, Liverpool originally had Salzburg. That didn't work out. Rob, now Bayern has Salzburg.
Yep. The short commute.
Another RB. We're talking about another RB team, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Another RB team. Yeah, got to be familiar.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah, go on, Mike. You're going.
No, how are you feeling about that one?
Well, the first draw was Atletico, and I was confident with Atletico because their defense has not been the same as it was in previous years. I mean, they scored more goals, but now we have Salzburg, and now Bayern are just going to take the bus over, and because there's no fans in the stands in the state of Bavaria, all those folks over in Munich are going to get on the bus or the car, get on the Autobahn, and go to Salzburg, in beautiful Salzburg, by the way, and just invade the stadium because it's so close. It really is. Like, everybody from Bavaria loves, and especially Munich, they love going to Salzburg. It's a fun place to go. It's going to be I hate to say it, but it's going to be an easy victory. I'm feel confident in it. The only storyline I'm kind of looking at is for a player over at Salzburg by Adeyemi over there. He actually was part of the Bayern Academy for a couple of years, and he got cut when he was 10. And then he's bounced around a little bit, and then he finally found his place at Salzburg and is tearing it up. Got caught up to the German national team recently, and now he is on various clubs are in hot pursuit for his signature, including Bayern and including Dortmund as well. So it'll be interesting to see for him to come back home, because he's actually was born and raised in Munich, and see how he'll do. And other than that, Bayern just have so many weapons. I think the only problem I have on the Bayern side of things that will lead to some drama is simply that the Bayern defense gives up goals. Julius Nagelsmann does not really know what his best center back pairing is. Between Sula, Upamecano, and Lucas Hernandez, he's fluctuated between all three of them. He plays sort of a back three because Alphonso Davies is all the way up. So they're still not in sync yet, and they're giving up goals, unnecessary goals, mind you. So if Salzburg is going to play the Red Bull way, which is to press, be chaotic in the midfield, and play very direct and over the top, either Manuel Neuer is going to have to be sweeper keeper 2014, or Salzburg are going to put a couple in the back of the net and make Bayern sweat. And that's what I'm a little bit afraid of. I actually almost rather have Atletico, because at least you know what you got with them. With Salzburg, they're kind of a mixed bag still, and they're dangerous because they're really not playing with fear. This is house money to them. So it'll be a fun couple matches. I see Bayern going through, but it will still be entertaining for me.
Well, you want to make the hot take bold prediction, go for it.
Well, I mean, Rob just made my case for me. Salzburg beats Bayern, goes through. You heard it here first. First of all, because someone on the podcast said that team is going to win, and that never goes well. And secondly, he's made some valid points. Bayern's defense is not worked out. They're trying to play a back three, which is always a terrible idea because you always lose track of where everyone is, and no one's covering up for a centre back that stepped up into the midfield. Whereas if you play a back four with two high bar fullbacks, like Liverpool has been doing for the last 4 years, your midfield knows they have to step back. They have to step back and they have to fill in positions like Jordan Henderson and Gini Wijnaldum were doing very well last year, and now Jordan Henderson and Thiago are doing now. So, yeah, I think that Rob, you made some pretty valid points. You know what Atletico is going to do, and they're not doing what they used to do as well. That's why Liverpool beat them twice. That's why they almost got knocked out of the group. That's why they're almost in the Europa League. Yeah, I think that you prefer to play Atletico than a team that plays chaotic football. Liverpool almost lost to Salzburg twice when they played them in the group stage last. Salzburg had Haaland, Minamino, and what's his name? He Huang Chan. He's playing for a Premier League club. He Huang Chan, I think. He's the South Korean who's playing for who's their name?
I don't know.
I'm gonna look it up.
We
Yes.
need a stat boy. Get a stat boy here.
I need my housemate to be back from South Korea. But no. Yeah, so Salzburg's a dangerous team. They
Plays for
produce
Wolves.
dangerous talent. Wolves, yeah.
Yeah, plays for Wolves.
So, well, your Liverpool Reds have had Salzburg and ended up with Inter Milan.
Look, I'm going to back Liverpool to win any game that they're a part of. And the reason I can back Liverpool to win any game that they're a part of is because they are playing in such a way that makes me feel confident. They play in such a way that makes me feel as though, yeah, I could take a nap in the middle of this game and maybe I'll be coming back to a 3 or 4-0 win. And they're playing in such a way that makes me feel like a Bayern fan, if that makes sense. Like, there is no doubt in my mind coming into the week that Liverpool is the strong, firm favorite every week. Doesn't matter who you're playing. And I like that. Yeah, they're playing Inter Milan, which is the top team in Serie A right now. But
It's still Serie A is really down right now. I mean, you're looking at the
the
teams that
only
are-
league that's up right now is the Premier League.
I think.
Yeah, pretty much.
The
I
only
have to
league that's
agree.
up is the Premier League. Every other league is playing down in the doldrums and competing for the fifth best league in Europe. Premier League is up there. Like, yeah, we are definitely the best league in Europe. We have just taken everyone's money. We have just given everyone money and bought all their players.
Mm.
Can't
got
take our
it,
soul.
Yeah,
I gotta agree with
it's
you.
Premier
I
League and
think
Bayern
that-
Munich.
Yeah, it's Premier League and Bayern Munich. I think Inter are.
I mean, they're going to be a tough
With-
team to play.
They're
I
going to
won't
be a
lie.
tough team to play, but they're also a different proposition in general without Romelu Lukaku than they were with
with
Romelu.
Lukaku.
And they don't have Lukaku right now. Yes, they're winning winning Serie A. They lost 2-0 and got a red card against Real Madrid in their last game, a Real Madrid team that lost to FC Sheriff. I don't really think that that Inter has been especially overwhelming in any game that they played against competition that would measure up to what Liverpool are. I think that they're about to face a big step up. And I'm not known to be a Liverpool supporter, but yeah, I got to give you guys the advantage in this one. Even though going into the San Siro to play, I just think Liverpool are way, way, way too strong.
I mean, I think the thing about Liverpool, especially this season, is they have figured out how to play against a team that sits back again. And the reason they figured out how to do that is they have their center backs that can just step forward and play. Step forward and play a ball that is unplayable to a fullback who will ping it across first time to Mo Salah, to
I
Sadio
thought
Mane,
somebody had
to
muted
Diogo
him
Jota.
accidentally, and I was going to thank them.
Yeah.
I just
But, I mean-
will a compliment and said that I think that Inter Milan.
No, I appreciate the compliment.
And then
but-
he's going to go on and tell me why, and I don't really want to hear it.
you don't want to hear why. But I
don't really
will
care.
I will give you the pleasant feeling of me saying the one thing that Inter Milan can do is they can figure out how to block off that channel to the fullbacks and figure out how to stop that supply to the fullbacks and supply into the inside lane, not the cross, the supply into Mo Salah and into Sadio Mane that can become the cross again. Because any team that's done that this season, i.e. Wolves or Aston Villa, they have made it difficult for Liverpool to win the game. Any other team hasn't. And I think that the way that Inter Milan has set up for the last few years, Liverpool played them recently in the Champions League, and their defense gives up a lot. So hope if you're an Inter Milan fan, what you want to do is have that defense not give up a lot. And I think if we remember internationally, the players can sit back and not give up a lot. So they can be a dangerous team to play. But if they're not going to be up on their game, I'm not too concerned about it, other than my general apprehension. And of course, I'm going to back a Liverpool team to win every game. And they're going to win the Champions League, the Premier League, the FA Cup. And we can't call it the Man City Cup anymore. We can call it the League Cup again.
Especially if West Ham wins.
I agree with Will. I also think Liverpool's going to go through, but I simply think that they're just a deeper team. I know they're fighting for, trying to win the Premier League as well, and Inter is currently, in first in Serie A, but not by much. I think a point. But I simply think that Liverpool just has more weapons, for a longer season. When you start getting into February and March, Liverpool can afford to, rest players here and there. And then now you have Firmino, who's not even like starting anymore, but Jota,
Jota.
Jota, yeah, he just is blossomed out of nowhere, in my opinion. He's playing really good football. But then you have Firmino sort of on the bench, who knows the system, knows how to play. So
Firmino's injured.
I think Firmino's injured. Yeah, well, I mean,
that's why Jota is playing. Firmino would be playing if he was.
I don't know. Jota is just like
Firmino may not be playing after the injuries.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't know. This
playing.
is Jurgen Klopp we're talking about. He will play James Milner and Jordan Henderson till they die of old age. I will stand by him 100% in doing that, because Liverpool wins games.
But also, that goes to the point. Liverpool has a much deeper bench. I think Inter have lost players, primarily Lukaku, and they're
really still playing Alexis Sanchez at Inter. Come on, I mean, they don't have the depth.
Being upset about people who have left you is an unbecoming look.
Look, he left Manchester United to go there, not us. And we made 25 million off of him, which is a lot more than we hope to get with a guy who already had 9 toes out the door.
I've got to be honest, from a producer content perspective, I'm very happy about this discussion because I loved how in depth that we got into why Liverpool will beat Inter Milan. From a personal perspective, once I said that they were going to beat them, I was
You
like,
wanted
done.
to
I did not want to
Okay,
hear about.
Mike, I have a question for you.
I do
How
not
do
want to
you
hear about
feel about
why.
Manchester United's draw against Atletico Madrid. I know we've both Rob and I have poo-pooed Atletico Madrid, but how do you feel about Manchester United?
I think it's a lot easier to poo-poo Atletico Madrid when you're coming at it from a Bayern or a Liverpool perspective, and you have a fully formed, well-coached team, one that has been scoring goals for fun. One, Rob, you may have fallen asleep during Bayern Stuttgart, but I didn't, and watched them just take apart a team 5-0 in a game where at times it looked like they never got out of second gear. That being said, my hope is that by February, Ralph Ragnick has gotten a little bit more time and maybe a player or two that he needs to start impressing his system. If we start to see anything like what Ragnick wants to do, then I think that it's going to be a competitive fixture. You can't, it's hard to judge United right now because you know, you're dealing with two separate managers with two very different philosophies. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's Man United would have gone in and they would have gotten boat raced. I don't know what this iteration of Man United is going to do because I just really don't know what they're fully capable of. So it'll be interesting. I think I need a little bit more to see. But before we go, I guess we have time just to touch on like what is outside of the three that we talked about. What is the tie in the Champions League round of 16 that you're most looking forward to seeing? I'll start with you, Stead.
Actually, I know I didn't talk much about this game, you know, and I have a bad feeling that the Real Madrid PSG games are going to be quite dull. But Ajax Benfica could really be a bit of a firecracker. I mean, Will, I think it was you, Will, who pointed out. Somebody pointed out, but that you know the Portuguese Liga has taken over as the number 5 league in Europe, and it's because of the teams. It's not just Benfica and Sporting, but you have Braga who's playing really well as well. Benfica is a seasoned European competitive team. Ajax is a seasoned European competitive team. Ajax has has pocket change when it comes to the amount of money compared to some of the bigger clubs that are competing in the Champions League tournament, but they know how to play. Look, Sebastian Haller from West Ham to go there to really reinvigorate his career has been nothing but positive. That could actually be a really exciting home and home because I think both of those teams are going. I think both of them feel like they have a legit shot to win, and both feel like they can probably get to the quarters, if not the semifinals. So that's probably the one game that's outside of the big shiny ones that you would expect. Because I'm not gonna lie, I'm just not very excited about a lot of the other games that are happening in the round of 16.
Rob, outside of the ones that we talked about, which one are you looking most forward to watching?
It has to be PSG, Real Madrid. Two juggernauts. One's gonna get bounced, and I hope it's PSG.
I always want PSG to lose.
and I think it will be PSG who gets bounced because they only have another month to get together over at PSG as far as getting all the players together. And Mbappe right now is running the show over at PSG, and this is going to be his last
transfer this year. He's gone on a free transfer. That's the thing. Like they have to win this year, and he's going to be bounced in around a 16. It's like poetic justice, if you ask me. But
and then the next year, you're going to have an older Messi and an older Neymar, right? So this is like their year. Ramos is back. I know he was hurt for a bit, but now he's back. So it'll be interesting to see him play at Real. But Benzema, I think he's going to light it up again. I think he's one of those strikers that, you don't hear enough about. I think he's been amazing. It's almost like he never stops scoring goals. I mean, he leads the team in goals and assists. And then you have the coming of Vinicius Jr., who has been a perfect tag team partner to Benzema. I think those two players are going to light it up. I think they're going to do really well against PSG. I think they're a more compact team. And Carlo Ancelotti knows how to play with these knows how to coach this team. I don't know how. I really don't know like how PSG are going to come together. I don't have faith in it. I think they're going to get bounced. But that's what I'm looking forward to. I can't wait for one less oil money team to get bounced out of the competition.
Will, what game are you looking forward to outside the ones that we talked about?
Okay. I mean, if I can say in all honesty, I do think the Inter Liverpool game is going to be the most interesting one, apart from what Stead said. I think that the Ajax Benfica game, just the teams are the closest together in terms of ability and in terms of interest. No one's going to really want to watch that game, but everyone should watch that game if you want to see a good Champions League matchup, I think. Because Aller has scored 10 goals in the group stage. No one does that. Like, there are teams that haven't scored 10 goals, and Aller has scored 10. And that must mean that Ajax has set up 10 goals for Aller to score. So that means that this is going to be an interesting game. There is no question about that. I do want to say that Liverpool-Inter is a good game to watch, even if you hate Liverpool and you hate Inter, because they're just going to be beating up on each other. I do want to speak very, very briefly again about the PSG Real game. Everyone hopes that PSG is going to lose. Don't think PSG is going to lose, but everyone hopes they're going to lose. The reason I don't think they're going to lose is the Messi factor playing the Messi game. And Messi playing in the Champions League is a very different beast to Messi playing in the French league. And yeah, Mbappe has been getting the lion's share of the goals, but Messi is bringing his influence to bear on PSG. And I can't say that I want Real Madrid to win because I want both of them to lose. But this is the one time I'll become a Madrista. Actually, there are two occasions I'll become a Madrista, and that's if they're playing Man City or PSG. But realistically, I think that Stead, you were completely right. The most interesting game outside of the ones we've already talked about is Ajax versus Benfica, and there's not really a question in my mind about that.
Most interesting, I'll wrap it up. I think the most interesting one for the soccer fan is Benfica Ajax, because that's probably the most evenly poised one. It has two teams. You gotta love Eric Ten Hag's coaching style, how they're setting up goals, and Ajax just continues to perform in the Champions League. Of course, if you're looking for names, you can't go wrong with Real Madrid and PSG, simply because no one has said it. I'm going to say Villarreal and Juventus. I feel simply like there is some possibility for an upset there. Juve hasn't been anywhere near as good, as dominant as anything as we thought. And Unai Emery has, outside of his games against Manchester United, done a pretty good job of keeping teams from scoring against them. So I think that one has some possibility for an upset. Will's asking me what would be the upset. I guess if you're going just on name, it would be Juventus, because they're trailing where Villarreal is in the league. But gentlemen, it is time for us to wrap this up. I want to thank Coach G for coming on and joining us and talking a little bit of Arsenal, Cam and Larry and Los for joining us earlier in the show to talk about the Europa League, and of course Byron Robb, and the triumphant return of British Will to talk about the Europa League and the Champions League, and of course, my partner and producer Stead for keeping all the trains running on time. I'm Mike. This has been the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. We did all right this week. We'll try and do better next week. Thanks for listening and have a good week.